Hello, I'm Caroline Jones. Tonight's program centres on a friendship between a scientist and a coach driver, an odd couple, but what they shared was a seemingly crazy passion to do something about childhood cancer. Their alliance has forged a breakthrough that's creating excitement round the world. And it all started way back when Col Reynolds just happened to drive his bus past a children's hospital. This is his story.
Faith pours from your walls, drowning your calls. I've tried to hear, you're not near.
Cole does reflect back on the past, and sometimes it's a bit sad because he says to me that he hasn't fulfilled the promises that he made to, the parents. He reckons he's been to over 200 funerals of children. He said to me that he was having a lot of kids come back to him in his dreams, and he was very upset about it.
Now I've fallen in deep, slow, silent sleep. It's killing me, I'm dying.
You only had to look at what was happening to the children. It was cruel to see the kids having to go through what they went through, and it was also cruel for the parents. It just makes you feel like you want to do more and more, and you don't want to stop.
To put a little bit of sunshine in your life.
We have collages of children who have been very special to Cole throughout his journey. None of the children in those collages are alive.
They play on his mind, all these children that he gets close to. I don't know how he does it. But then that's his driving force. He says he's not going to die until they find a cure for cancer.
Next, a huge breakthrough in the fight against cancer. We have a special report on a new drug being developed right here in Australia.
Tests show the drugs are effective against every type of cancer tested, and that includes difficult-to-treat childhood cancers.
Oh, come this way.
Thank you, Pete.
So this is a restricted area, so you need to put a gown on.
I guess I would explain my dad and Peter as a bit of an odd couple.
In the lab, there are genetically modified organisms.
Peter is world-class in his field and he's very well educated, whereas my dad has quite a different background. However, they both want to cure childhood cancer. Peter has the ability to make significant breakthroughs with his research.
You can see a lot of equipment here. Some of this is, in fact, back from the old days.
Dad has the ability to fund the research through the charity.
So I also want to introduce you to Tom.
Professor Peter Gunning had a research program that people thought wasn't going to work. He had the greatest of confidence and faith in that research program, and I thought, that's what I want to see. That's where you're going, and I want to be there, and I'm going to fundraise for you.
It was a personal faith that we had in each other, that he would support us, and he believed in what we were trying to do.
There are an enormous number of these new ideas coming out, but this one created quite a lot of interest. It's a high-risk venture, but if it works, you've made a great impact on a disease that's still one of the biggest killers around the world.
In 1998, I was a tour coach driver. It was a good life. I was travelling everywhere, being paid to be on holidays and to entertain people. And I used to love all that.
Hi, I'm Col Reynolds. I had this great idea whilst driving the bus. I wanted to take little kids suffering from cancer out on tour. I went into the local hospital and spoke to the staff, and they just thought I was crazy.
He had driven past Camperdown Children's Hospital and he had noticed some children who were receiving cancer therapy walking near the hospital, and because they had no hair, he was quite struck by that.
Kids going?
We're just about to offer lunch in
Are
there.
you really? Good stuff. Great. That's good.
I thought, you poor little sweeties.
Good stuff. Hi, guys.
I thought I could do something to give them a little bit of an excursion, just like you take out on day trips the general public.
We live in a time where I think we're just so careful about, whatever we do, especially with children, that the idea of a coach driver just taking a cohort of children for a drive to just give them a distraction for the day, I cannot imagine how that would be acceptable nowadays.
I love your haircut too.
We'd pick the patients who were suitable to go on trips, and we'd have a nurse to make sure that the children that we chose to go could actually cope.
And you take care and all the best, okay? Ready, mate? Well done. Well done.
Cole, he was like a breath of fresh air.
Look at you.
Everything he did for those children came out of his own pay pack. He'd take us to the movies. He would take us to Central Park to feed the ducks. He took us out to the fire brigade training place at Alexandria. Cole would entertain everybody. They all loved him. Every child loved him. And he wanted to see them grow up, but unfortunately, he didn't.
Hello, how are you? Lovely to see you.
Alice had the face of an angel. She was only 3 when she was diagnosed.
You're looking well. Yeah.
We were told from day one that she was terminal. And she never complained when she wasn't well, did she?
No, never complained. Take anything.
Yep.
Pain didn't worry her. Just an amazing girl, wasn't she?
Well, she was really the inspiration, wasn't she? That started you.
Yeah, really got me going.
I tried to get close to Alice, but she would shy behind her mum. But I think after we went out on so many excursions, she didn't think I was such a bad bloke, and she came up and gave me a cuddle. From that day, Alice and I were bonded.
She was a sweet-natured, dear little girl that adored him and he adored her.
That's a good photo.
And here we are.
Always loved that one.
That's down at Centennial Park,
Is it?
you know. I think she'd be 27 if she was...
She would be 27. Back when Alice was diagnosed, they used to tell me that 1/3 of children were cured. And I used to ask them to line them up against a wall so I could count them because I never saw any of them. It was horrendous. We lost her on the 20th of February 1993 and she was 6 and 9 months then. There are 2 that went through all those years with Alice. There are 2 that I know of that are still alive.
Hey, Alexander, how are you going? Good, thank you. Wow, so this is Ronald McDonald House. Yep. Excellent.
I feel really lucky, I think. I mean, there are a lot of people that I knew then that didn't make it, that, unfortunately passed away.
How long have you been here?
8 months.
Yeah?
Yep.
Do you think it's important to have a place like this?
Yeah, it's nice.
Alex had acute myeloid leukemia and he was as white as a sheet. And I looked at this poor kid and I thought, I can't see you making it, mate. You are so crook.
Alexander went through a series of very intensive courses of chemotherapy. He suffered substantial toxicity. He had life-threatening infections.
Cole did a lot of things for me. He organised for me to see various different events at the Olympics, which were on in Sydney at the time, which was just fantastic.
Alexander was very excited to be going to the opening game of the Olympics. And this was after he'd been in intensive care and critically ill. And Alexander turned to me and said, "Oh, gee, Mum, it was almost worth getting leukemia, wasn't it?" At which stage I would have thumped him, but his platelet count was too low and he would have bruised.
Colin gives an enormous amount of effort. What makes him that way, I don't know. I don't know what his experiences have been in his life.
Perhaps if I hadn't have had my marriage fail the way it did, I would never have got involved with all these little kids. I'm more of a stranger to my kids and I don't want to be a stranger. I want to be someone that, is their dad.
When we were growing up, Dad wasn't really around very much. He'd be away for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time and come back for a short period.
With the kids, Driving tourist coaches gave us that financial security. I thought I was being a good provider, even though I was away from home.
I guess from an early age, we were kind of used to just living with mum at home. So when my parents did separate when I was 12, him not being around and living in the house was just an extension, really, of a long trip. It just became an incredibly long trip.
I'd love my kids to be able to share in what I'm doing for these cancer kids, but I just don't think this is ever going to happen.
When I found out about Dad being involved with other kids, my initial thought was, oh, that's really fantastic that you're helping other people, but I haven't seen you very much myself.
All I knew about Col was that he went through a very messy divorce, and the children with cancer became his children. So he became an adopted father to all of these children. He then decided he would launch the Children's Cancer Charity.
Some of that passion that he started off with was sort of siphoned off into fundraising, and it's been very successful.
I'm going to be putting on a concert at the St George Leagues Club, a gala night of stars to raise...
Col founded the Oncology Children's Foundation. Today it's called the Kids Cancer Project.
...is that we've got a real bit of a problem with medical equipment once more.
Originally, the charity was really focused on providing things that would make the life of the child easier while they were getting their therapy in the clinic.
And then we just made him aware that those bus trips would never cure cancer, nor would televisions, nor would equipment, but research might, or would actually.
So I was told by Dr. Luciano Della Posa, if we don't have research, these children won't live long enough. And I thought, I'd rather save their life than take them out on excursion.
In 1998, I had been working on how you build the architecture of cells in your body for 18 years. At that time, I was head of cancer research in the Children's Hospital at Westmead. The then head of oncology insisted that we go into the clinic once a week in order for the research team to understand the kinds of problems that confront the children. If you ever walk through the ward of a children's hospital where children are being treated for cancer and you see the parents, this is not an academic kind of exercise. This is the moment where you have an opportunity to really go and do something that affects the lives of families and their children in a very tangible kind of way. Some of the fundraising ideas you had in the beginning. What became clear to us very quickly was the most useful thing that we could do was develop new therapeutic strategies to treat the children. So we started off just looking at childhood cancer samples and asking some very simple questions about the architecture of cancer cells. Neuroblastoma is the major killer of children with cancer. Col was introduced to me as someone who would provide me with the equipment that we needed to do our cancer research. Then we're able to test different ways of trying to kill these cells.
Nobody would even support or fundraise for him to get that lab going. There wasn't a Bunsen burner, a test tube, there was nothing.
Just effectively killing it.
When I saw that, I thought, I'll raise the money. We will get there.
He was camping out in shopping centres and selling raffle tickets. He ran into a professional fundraising firm somewhere around that time, and they took those raffles and basically started marketing them on the telephone. In 2001, Col achieved his first $1 million in fundraising for Children's Hospital Westmead.
People for a long time had wanted to take apart the structure of cancer cells, but they'd come at it from a different point of view. The component that researchers initially went after was actin. The problem with it had been really simple. If you actually attack that particular component, your heart stopped beating. Really bad outcome. And so that was not an option.
Where Peter Gunning's work is different is it goes after another major component, which is tropomyosin. No one really had thought of the idea of targeting another component. In the work that had been done in the lab demonstrated that indeed if you took away this important component then you can inhibit cancer cell survival, and I think that was a real stepping stone.
So what we discovered, there was a particular kind of structure in cancer cells that was something the cell absolutely requires, it's absolutely dependent on, and other cells in your body don't have the same kind of dependency. We're just targeting a very specific part of the structure, but then that'll cause the structure of the cancer cell to collapse.
You kind of wake up one morning and you go, oh my God, the most obvious thing to do is just take apart that key building block. The cancer cell will fall apart.
Oh, beautiful. There's the cancer cell.
That's the end of
it's
the cancer
gone.
cell.
Oh, I love it.
And I walk in and say, Justine, so how do you feel about this? Why don't we actually have a shot at actually developing some drugs that would actually take this apart?
That was actually a pretty wild thing to suggest to you.
It was high risk. It was high risk.
I became involved in the project in about 2003, 2004. My background is in biochemistry. And I thought it was a really exciting, pretty risky, but pretty exciting project. So I kind of grabbed it with both hands and ran with it.
Col's charity let us know that they had additional funds available for us to take this big risk and pursue the drug development. Conventional funding mechanisms would never have put money into it because it's such high risk. Low chance of success.
It's been a really challenging project. I've been encouraged by Peter along the way in terms of, well, Justine, if it was easy, everyone else would be doing it, which, you know, can be inspirational sometimes, but also, you know, it has certainly been frustrating.
It probably wasn't until I finished school that I really developed a better relationship with my dad, and I could see more from an adult point of view why things had happened the way they had, and, you know, some of the choices he might have made. And I can completely understand why he spent time with other families and trying to make a difference. My sister and brother don't really have a relationship with Dad, so I guess it's a bit of an unusual experience. I almost feel like an only child with my dad, whereas I'm one of three with my mum.
Maybe it was 10 years ago, Col rang me to tell me that he had met this wonderful woman, Margot, and that he was moving to Townsville.
That lady gave me a phone number which is 2 digits.
I thought, oh, how's he going to continue with his fundraising? But he did it, and he's done it beautifully. And I know that Margot is a huge part in supporting him doing this.
If you want to buy a teddy bear, folks, we're going to raffle the next one. It's only $2 a ticket. We've got to give him a home.
He does a lot of talking, as you can probably imagine. I do a lot of writing. So needless to say, I think I sell more tickets than he does.
What first name is it, sweetie?
Simone.
Oh, my daughter Simone is an
The first thought in my mind was not, who's this Margot? It was like, hallelujah, I don't have to worry about you anymore. I just have always wanted my dad to be happy.
Hello, Lynn, whereabouts are you? You've just won the teddy bear.
I felt that it was time for me to find someone and I could be myself. And that's exactly what I found with Margot.
By 2007, we realised that if we stripped that building block out of a cancer cell, the cell would commit suicide. Then about 2009, we had the first drugs.
We were able to demonstrate that it was effective against neuroblastoma, so a childhood cancer, but also against an adult melanoma cancer type.
For the first time, they've been able to show they can kill the cancer without having severe side effects. That's what's made this such an exciting discovery, because previously these drugs haven't been candidates because they're likely to have been too toxic.
It looks like that there's no cardiac damage with the drug, which is really good.
Wow.
We're looking to put that into figure 2 of the paper. Yeah. Just recently we published a paper in quite a prestigious cancer journal, Cancer Research Journal. So it has taken 10 years to get this research published.
They wanted to put it on the cover. Now, that was a celebration. We were pretty excited. Justine actually was really excited.
I've said to Peter Gunning, I am so proud of what you have achieved yourself and also the other people that support you in the lab. But he said, you've been there with me on the journey. And I've said, Peter, you've done all the scientific work. I'm only there raising the money.
Well, there has been an exciting development in the fight against cancer with Australian researchers.
After 30 years of research, Sydney scientists have made a major breakthrough.
I was not ready for the amount of publicity it generated. You never know when you put it out there and it's finally published, what's the reaction going to be?
Sydney scientists uncover a new drug that causes cancer cells to kill themselves.
I've actually had the weird experience of people coming up to me and telling me, apologising to me and saying they just never thought this was possible.
What this new drug actually does is target a weak spot in the cancer cell, causing it to basically implode.
I thought it was very clever because it's a different way of attacking cancer. It may solve some of the problems on its own, or it may be used with other treatments to have a dual attack, make it more certain that you can eradicate it.
The University of New South Wales have developed a new drug called TR100 that targets a weakness in cancer cells, causing them to kill themselves. It's so far proved 100% effective.
It's correct that the potential is there for 100% cure. The reality is that what works in one petri dish of cancer cells won't necessarily apply to the next one. What we should be rejoicing is the fact that what they've found is a loophole. And the proof will come 10 years later when that loop becomes a medicine or an intervention and we can demonstrate that it means something.
The potential now is to start moving towards studies in people. It's quite possible it may apply to a whole range of cancers, and that's what will have to be investigated next.
That'll be my happiest moment when we finally do something that brings an end to the cancer-related illnesses that bring so much grief, trauma and tragedy to a family.
2012-13 was a very big year for the Kids Cancer Project. Financial results are great. To date, the charity has funded over $20 million worth of research into childhood cancer.
Thank you for your support in having me as the chair for the last few months. And
Col quite happily gave up the chairmanship last year. But in saying that, it's hard to say that he's wound down. He comes down to board meetings every month.
I've been involved with the Kids Cancer Project right from the start. I'm one of the founding directors.
Absolutely. Makes me feel very proud that I have someone that is within the family that can make sure that the charity has a good future in front of it.
We know it's the right target, we know it can be hit. The question is, how best do we now create a pipeline of new therapies that could follow where we're at now?
The recent board meeting was a great opportunity for Peter Gunning and his team to come and present some of the work that they've been focusing on.
In conventional terms, it really is out of the box, and it's been made possible by the board and actually by your commitment, Col.
We're going to be with you, following you and beside you all the way until you find the cure
That is in my head all the time. You have said that at least 100 times.
Peter, the beautiful thing is, if you forget it, I'll remind you.
I have no doubt.
It's exciting when you see those presentations to know about the difference that charity's making to people right now today.
Here we go. Hi, Col. It's been a while since we caught up, but I thought you might like to know that Alexander has been up to. He's now a fully fledged doctor. Wow.
So in December last year, I graduated from medical school here in Tasmania after 5 years at the uni. And I think everyone always asks you, it seems to be sort of the stereotypical question, why did you want to be a doctor?
Alexander Nicholas Willows.
It's hard to think that what happened to me when I was younger didn't have some sort of role to play in it, you know, in influencing me to go on to want to do medicine, which I'm very glad I chose to do.
Remembering when I saw your face shining my way, pure timing.
Knock, knock. Hello.
How are you? It's only been 12 years.
Yes, a little while. How are you going?
Really good to see you.
A little bit taller than you remember?
Alex, come with me.
I haven't seen this young man since about 2001 or 2002.
How's Mum? How's Kim?
Good.
Is she good?
Oh, that's still the same as ever.
We can claim him as one of our successes, which is great. And he's gone on to bigger and better things.
Oh, well, I think you've done all right.
I think so. Well, we did all right. We did it with... well, you're one of many, which was great.
Just so pleased that you're there.
He managed it despite me. He managed it despite me.
But that's
I wouldn't
great.
say that. I wouldn't say
I
that.
just think it is so beautiful, you know.
He's 24 now, I think, and a fabulous life ahead. Best years of his life coming up.